Have you ever poured your heart and soul into someone only to have them turn around and stab you in the back? Have you ever given everything to a friend, a partner, or even a family member only to watch them walk away or worse, actively hurt you? If you've ever felt this pain, stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will completely revolutionize how you understand every relationship in your life. You're not alone in this experience. In fact, Carl Jung discovered that this pattern of loving deeply and being hurt deeply is one of the most universal human experiences. According to Carl Jung's extensive research into the human psyche, there's a profound psychological reason why the people we love and help the most often become the ones who betray us most devastatingly. But here's what will shock you. Jung found that this betrayal isn't what you think it is at all. Carl Jung said that what we experience as betrayal is actually a complex psychological process that reveals more about our own unconscious patterns than it does about the other person's character. According to Carl Jung, every betrayal is a mirror, and what you see in that mirror might disturb you. Jung discovered something that most people never realize. We're not random victims of cruel people. We're unconscious architects of our own suffering. Carl Jung discovered that human beings don't see reality as it is. We see reality filtered through our own unconscious projections. According to Carl Jung's depth psychology, when you look at another person, you're not seeing them clearly. You're seeing them through the lens of your own unresolved psychological material. Jung found that the more intensely we feel about someone, the more we're projecting onto them. Carl Jung said that projection is an unconscious psychological defense mechanism where we attribute our own unacknowledged feelings, thoughts, and motivations to others. According to Carl Jung, we project both positive and negative qualities, but it's the positive projections that set us up for the deepest pain. When you fall in love with someone or become deeply attached to a friend, Carl Jung discovered that you're often projecting your own unrealized potential onto them. You see in them qualities that actually exist within you but remain undeveloped. Jung observed something chilling about this process. The brighter your projection, the darker the eventual shadow. According to Carl Jung's research, when we project our golden shadow, our positive unrealized qualities onto another person, we unconsciously burden them with the impossible task of living up to our own unlived potential. Carl Jung said, this creates a psychological pressure cooker that eventually explodes. But there's something even more disturbing that Jung uncovered about why we choose certain people to project onto. Carl Jung discovered that we don't randomly select people for our projections. According to Jung's theory of the collective unconscious, we're unconsciously drawn to people who carry the archetypal energy we need to encounter for our own psychological development. Carl Jung said that people who compulsively help others are often driven by what he called a complex, an emotionally charged cluster of ideas in the unconscious that operates autonomously, often against our conscious will. Jung found that behind every compulsive helper lies a deep wound that they're unconsciously trying to heal. According to Carl Jung's clinical observations, the helper's complex typically develops in childhood when a person learns that their worth is conditional upon their usefulness to others. Carl Jung discovered that these individuals unconsciously believe, I am only lovable when I am needed. Jung observed that this creates a tragic psychological trap that most helpers never recognize. Carl Jung said that when you help others from this wounded place, you're not actually helping them. You're using them as medicine for your own psychological pain. According to Jung, this creates an unconscious contract. I will help you, and in return, you will make me feel worthy and needed. But here's what Jung discovered that will shock you. The person you're helping senses this unconscious contract even if they can't articulate it. Carl Jung found that recipients of compulsive helping begin to feel objectified. According to Jung's research, they intuitively understand that they are being used to fill someone else's emotional void. And this creates a deep resentment that eventually erupts in what the helper experiences as betrayal. Carl Jung discovered that the helper thinks they're being selfless, but unconsciously they're being incredibly selfish, using another person's problems as a vehicle for their own psychological healing. Jung said that this dynamic is so common, he observed it in almost every helping relationship that ended badly. Carl Jung discovered that within every person exists a contraxual archetype, thema in men, the feminine aspect, and the animus in women, the masculine aspect. According to Carl Jung, these archetypes represent the undeveloped aspects of our personality that we often project onto others, particularly in romantic relationships. Jung found something startling about romantic love. We're never actually in love with the other person. Carl Jung said that when we fall in love, we're actually falling in love with our own or animus projected onto another person. According to Jung, intense romantic attraction is often a sign that someone is carrying the projection of our own undeveloped psychological material. Jung discovered that this creates a setup for inevitable disappointment that feels like betrayal. Carl Jung observed that in the projection phase of relationship, we see the other person as perfect, as our missing half, as the answer to all our problems. According to Carl Jung, this idealization is actually a form of psychological inflation. We're seeing our own divine potential reflected in another person. But Carl Jung discovered that projections are inherently unstable. According to Jung's research, no human being can sustain carrying another person's projected divinity indefinitely. When the projection collapses, Jung said, the fall from grace feels like betrayal. Jung found that the more we idealize someone, the more devastating their inevitable humanness becomes. Carl Jung said that what we experience as the other person changing or betraying us is actually our own projection withdrawing. According to Jung, the person hasn't changed. Our perception of them has shifted as our unconscious recognizes that they cannot carry our projection any longer. Jung discovered that when we consistently help someone, we unconsciously communicate several messages that create psychological disturbance in the recipient. According to Jung's observations, excessive helping sends these unconscious signals. You are incapable. You need fixing, and I am superior to you. Jung found that the person being helped begins to feel diminished even as they're being elevated. Carl Jung said that human beings have an innate drive toward autonomy and self-determination. According to Jung, when someone is constantly helped, their individuation process, their natural development toward wholeness is interrupted. Jung observed that this creates a psychological rebellion that the helper never sees coming. Carl Jung discovered that the recipient of excessive help begins to feel trapped in the role of the grateful patient or rescued victim. According to Jung, this role becomes a prison that the person eventually must break free from to maintain their psychological integrity. Carl Jung said that what we experience as betrayal is often the other person's attempt to reclaim their power and autonomy. According to Jung's research, the more someone has been helped, the more violently they sometimes need to reject the helper to establish their independence. Jung found that this rebellion often takes the form of what appears to be cruelty, but it's actually a psychological survival mechanism. Carl Jung observed that people will sometimes hurt their helpers not because they're ungrateful, but because they need to prove to themselves that they're not dependent. According to Jung, this is particularly true when the helping relationship has gone on for an extended period. Carl Jung discovered one of the most important principles in psychology, the principle of psychological compensation. According to Carl Jung, the psyche naturally seeks balance, and whatever we overdevelop in one direction, we unconsciously attract its opposite to restore equilibrium. Jung found that if you're excessively giving, you will unconsciously magnetize people who are excessively taking. Carl Jung said that this isn't coincidence. It's the psyche's attempt to show us the disowned parts of ourselves. According to Jung, if you only know how to give and never how to receive, you'll unconsciously seek out people who can only receive and never give. Jung discovered that we don't accidentally end up in these dynamics. We're unconsciously creating them. Carl Jung observed that people who pride themselves on being selfless often unconsciously attract selfish people. According to Jung, this happens because the selfless person needs to encounter their own capacity for selfishness, which they've repressed and projected onto others. Jung found that your betrayer is often expressing a disowned part of your own personality. Carl Jung said that if you're always the rescuer, you'll attract people who need rescuing, but also people who will eventually refuse to be rescued. According to Jung, this refusal forces you to confront your own need to be needed, which is often the real issue. Carl Jung discovered that the person who betrays you is actually showing you your own shadow, the parts of yourself you've been unwilling to acknowledge or integrate. Carl Jung identified the wounded healer as one of the most powerful archetypes in human psychology. According to Carl Jung, the wounded healer is someone who has experienced significant pain and unconsciously attempts to heal others as a way of healing themselves. Jung found that wounded healers often become the most devastated when their patients turn against them. Carl Jung said that the wounded healer archetype operates on the unconscious belief that if I can heal others, I can heal myself. According to Jung, this creates a compulsive need to find wounded people to fix because the healer's own sense of worth depends on their ability to create healing in others. But Jung discovered something tragic about this pattern. It never actually heals the healer. Carl Jung observed that wounded healers often attract people who are not actually seeking healing, but who enjoy being the center of attention and care. According to Jung, these individuals unconsciously resist getting better because recovery would mean losing their special status with the healer. Carl Jung discovered that this creates a toxic dynamic where the healer becomes increasingly frustrated with the patient's lack of progress, while the patient becomes increasingly resentful of the healer's expectations for improvement. Jung found that this pattern often explodes when the patient finally rebels against the healer's implicit demand to get better. Carl Jung said that the wounded healer's deepest fear is that if everyone gets healed, they will no longer be needed. According to Jung, this unconscious fear often sabotages the very healing they're trying to create. Carl Jung discovered that what many people call helping is actually enabling, creating psychological dependency rather than fostering growth. According to Carl Jung, enablers unconsciously need others to remain weak so they can continue feeling strong. Jung observed that enablers are often shocked when their helpless victims suddenly show strength by attacking them. Carl Jung said that enabling is a form of psychological control disguised as love. According to Jung, the enabler maintains superiority by keeping the other person in an inferior position while convincing themselves they're being altruistic. Jung found that the person being enabled eventually recognizes this control and rebels against it violently. Carl Jung discovered that people who are enabled often feel infantilized and diminished. According to Jung's research, they begin to resent the enabler's assumption that they cannot handle their own problems or make their own decisions. Carl Jung said that the rebellion against enabling often takes the form of dramatic self, destructive behavior, or direct attacks on the enabler. According to Jung, this is the person's way of proving their autonomy, even if it's destructive. Jung found that enablers are often devastated by this rebellion because they genuinely believe they were helping. Carl Jung discovered that in every close relationship, We unconsciously transfer feelings and patterns from our past onto the present person. According to Carl Jung, transference is when we react to someone as if they were a significant figure from our childhood rather than responding to who they actually are. Jung found that we often love people not for who they are, but for who they remind us of. Carl Jung said that when we help someone compulsively, we're often trying to heal a relationship from our past through them. According to Jung, we might be unconsciously trying to save a parent, sibling, or even ourselves as children. But Jung discovered that the person receiving our projected healing often senses they're being used as a stand-in for someone else. Carl Jung observed that countertransference, when the other person transfers their past onto us, creates a complex psychological dance where neither person is actually relating to present reality. According to Jung, both people are relating to ghosts from their past. Carl Jung discovered that when these transferential relationships collapse, both parties feel betrayed because neither was getting what they actually needed. They were both chasing phantoms. Jung found that the most painful betrayals often happen when two people's transferential needs conflict. Carl Jung said that the solution to the betrayal pattern isn't to stop loving or helping others. It's to become conscious of your unconscious motivations and reclaim your projections. According to Carl Jung, every external relationship is an opportunity for internal integration. Jung discovered a powerful process that can break the betrayal cycle forever, but it requires brutal honesty. Carl Jung said that you must begin by asking yourself, what am I really trying to get from this relationship? According to Jung, most people are unconsciously seeking validation, healing, worth, or completion through others. Jung found that when you can honestly answer this question, you begin to see how you've been using others. Carl Jung discovered that the next step is to identify what you're projecting onto others. According to Jung, whatever you most admire or despise in another person is usually a projection of your own disowned qualities. Carl Jung said that if you're consistently attracted to victims who need saving, you need to examine your own disowned victim. According to Jung, if you're always helping others, you need to confront your own need for help. Jung found that this integration process is initially more painful than the betrayal itself. Carl Jung observed that when you reclaim your projections, you must face parts of yourself you've been avoiding. According to Jung, this is why most people prefer to keep projecting. It's easier than doing your own inner work. Carl Jung discovered that the ultimate purpose of every relationship is individuation, the process of becoming psychologically whole and authentic. According to Carl Jung, every betrayal is actually an invitation to reclaim parts of yourself you've been projecting onto others. Jung found that people who learn from betrayal become more powerful than those who avoid it. Carl Jung said that when someone betrays you, they're actually returning your projections to you. According to Jung, the pain you feel isn't just about their actions. It's about confronting the parts of yourself you've been denying. Jung discovered that your betrayers are often your greatest teachers, though you'll resist seeing it this way. Carl Jung observed that people who integrate their betrayal experiences become less likely to repeat the pattern. According to Jung, this is because they've reclaimed their power and stopped depending on others to complete them. Carl Jung said that the goal isn't to find people who won't betray you. It's to become whole enough within yourself that others' behavior can't devastate you. According to Jung, this is true psychological maturity. Jung found that when you reach this level of integration, you actually attract healthier relationships. Carl Jung discovered that every person has a shadow, the parts of themselves they've rejected, repressed, or denied. According to Carl Jung, we often project our shadow onto others and then feel shocked when they act out these disowned parts of ourselves. Jung found that the people who trigger us most are often showing us our own unacknowledged shadow. Carl Jung said that if you're always the good person who helps everyone, Your shadow contains your capacity for selfishness, self-care, and healthy boundaries. According to Jung, you'll unconsciously attract people who express these qualities so you can encounter your own shadow through them. Jung discovered that integrating your shadow is the key to breaking free from victim consciousness. Carl Jung observed that people who refuse to acknowledge their shadow remain stuck in patterns of attracting others who will act out their disowned darkness. According to Jung, this is why good people often end up with bad partners or friends. Carl Jung said that shadow integration means accepting that you have the capacity for selfishness, cruelty, and self-interest. According to Jung, paradoxically, when you can own these qualities consciously, you're less likely to attract people who will express them unconsciously. Jung found that people who integrate their shadow become much more discerning about who they help. Carl Jung discovered that conscious relationship is possible, but it requires both people to take responsibility for their own psychological wholeness. According to Carl Jung, when two individuated people come together, they create genuine intimacy rather than mutual projection. Jung found that conscious relationships look completely different from unconscious ones. Carl Jung said that in conscious relationship, you help others from your overflow, not from your wound. According to Jung, this means you give because you have abundance to share, not because you need to feel needed. Jung discovered that this shift changes everything about how others respond to your help. Carl Jung observed that when you help from wholeness rather than woundedness, people are more likely to receive your help gracefully and less likely to rebel against it. According to Jung, this is because you're not unconsciously controlling them or making them dependent. Carl Jung said that conscious relationship also means taking responsibility for your own projections. According to Jung, when you feel intense positive or negative emotions about someone, you ask yourself, what part of me am I seeing in them? Jung found that this practice transforms every relationship from a source of drama into a source of wisdom. Carl Jung discovered that the ultimate truth about betrayal is this: it's never really about the other person. According to Carl Jung, every betrayal is a message from your unconscious about patterns you need to heal within yourself. Jung's most profound insight will revolutionize how you see every painful relationship experience. Carl Jung said that the people who seem to betray you are actually unconscious allies in your individuation process. According to Jung, they're showing you exactly where you need to grow, heal, and become more whole. Carl Jung discovered that when you understand this principle, you stop being a victim of others' behavior and start being the conscious creator of your own psychological reality. According to Jung, this is the difference between living unconsciously and living as an individuated human being. Jung found that people who master this understanding become magnetic to healthy relationships. Carl Jung said that betrayal is one of the most powerful catalysts for psychological growth available to human beings. According to Jung, those who learn to use betrayal as a mirror become wiser, stronger, and more authentic than those who spend their lives avoiding pain. Carl Jung discovered that the greatest gift you can give yourself is to see every betrayal as an opportunity to reclaim another piece of your wholeness. According to Jung, when you can do this consistently, you transform from someone who unconsciously creates drama into someone who consciously creates wisdom. Jung's ultimate message about betrayal: your greatest wounds become your greatest strengths, but only if you're willing to do the inner work to understand what they're teaching you. Carl Jung said that every person who has ever hurt you has also been a teacher showing you something about yourself that you needed to see. According to Carl Jung, when you can hold this perspective, you become truly free, not from pain, but from unconscious patterns that create unnecessary suffering. The choice, as Carl Jung discovered, is always yours. Remain unconscious and repeat the patterns, or become conscious and transform them. According to Jung, This choice determines whether you spend your life as a victim of betrayal or as a master of your own psychological destiny. Thank you so much for staying with me through this exploration. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. And if you'd like to go a step further in supporting this work, you can now leave a super thanks below. It's a small way to say thank you, and it truly helps keep this channel going.